in Houston, and he ran into some trouble down there. Uh, I think he was at some political rally, and man, some of them things went off. He was down there. I seen the video. He was running off at the mouth, and out of nowhere, man, you heard a gunshot. And so, they trying to say that one of Jay Prince what I'm saying, Jay Prince shooters tried to off Charleston White, and so yeah, which is an allegation, an allegation that the shooter was affiliated with Jay Prince, and you know what, to me, I don't, what would Jay Prince get out of, off in Charleston White in public like that? You know, at a political rally, he just don't seem to be that dumb. I ain't saying that he's an angel, but I'm thinking that he's a lot wiser, in the street knowledge, and how the streets operate to offer nigga that been talking shit about you in front of everybody at a political rally, and you gonna offer nigga like that and lose everything you got over a nigga like Charleston White? That would be the dumbest move I ever seen in my life. Now if a nigga was somewhere, where it wasn't no, I'm not saying, if a nigga, if something happened to the nigga and where there wasn't no eyes and shit and this, that, and no, because the nigga run his mouth all the time, you know what I'm saying? It wouldn't be hard for a motherfucker, they wouldn't know which way to look, but, you know, appreciate y'all, man. Appreciate your family. Yeah, yeah. Appreciate y'all. But, man, listen here. You can't let no motherfucker entice you to crash out. And a lot of times when you a chess master in this game of life, when you don't move, and you can't, listen, nigga, silence is gold, and a lot of niggas, they wear they ego and shit on their sleeve. And soon as a nigga say something, they be ready to crash the fuck out, man. You got to harness your motherfucking emotions, man. You can't let your emotion cause you to lose it all, especially over a nothing ass nigga. You know what I'm saying? So, I can't see Jay Prince, and I'm just speaking on what I seen from him thus far, down through the years. Man, you got millions of dollars, you got music, you got businesses and all of that. You got everything in the world that a motherfucker could desire. You could buy that. You know what I'm saying? You gonna give it up for a nigga like Charleston White, which is really trash. This nigga is trash. He's a fucking a professional troll. You know what I'm saying? Garbage shit talking nigga. That's what he is. And so that's how he get paid. And when you respond, he continues to get paid, because soon as you respond, he gonna respond. He gonna go in even deeper and harder on you. And if you emotionally weak where you got to be, you gonna fall into the web with that nigga. You know what I'm saying? You have to, silence is golden. Silence is golden, and the way you play the shit is golden. Cause if you act like, you don't give a fuck, yeah, I don't give a fuck, nigga, yeah, and don't even respond. People, and they ask you, oh, who is that? Yeah, I don't pay that nigga no attention. I don't pay that nigga no attention. And set that in stone. And if especially with a motherfucker that's running off at the mouth all the time, and he talking to this nigga ignorant, he didn't, man, this nigga didn't went off on over 200-300 niggas. Real talk, and that's not being, this nigga done disrespected over 200-300 niggas on the internet, so they wouldn't know who the fuck did this nigga. You know what I'm saying? Either one of them, man. Catch him when the nigga talking about somebody else. When he in another heated fucking controversy with somebody else, and motherfucker be ready to, you know. And I'm not saying, but I'm just saying the possibilities with that. You don't put your mouth in how you feel out there, nigga. Even if you feel some kind of way. Motherfuckers, you could defeat a nigga by ignoring them. Now, I know some niggas is, yeah, you just, but even then, it ain't gonna make no difference, because when you break, and you enter, especially with this type of a demonic entity, once you enter into that web with a demonic entity, you gonna have to match that motherfucker for real. And so when and you go back and forth with this motherfucker, and then, you know what I'm saying, and that's all they gonna need, and that's all he gonna need, because he gonna crash all the way out. He gonna go. He ain't got no limits. He ain't got no boundary on what he will violate, you know, to come out on top. So you can't enter into nowhere with no demonic entity like that. You just have to, and like I say, silence is golden. And let that motherfucker crash out and whatever. And when the nigga no longer here, motherfuckers ain't gonna know. Like, what who could it have been? Who could it have been? You know what I'm saying? No witness. And I'm not telling nobody nothing. You know what I'm saying? I'm not wishing nothing upon the man at all, because he have not, nigga ain't never said nothing to me personally. I could see the nigga's life, and I done seen a whole lot of niggas die for lesser, a lot lesser. It's almost amazing to me how this man is still here. It's just really amazing to me that he's still here, and violating on the way that he is. And I done seen this nigga done talk more shit to niggas than Suge Knight. This nigga motherfucker done talk more shit to niggas than Sugar. And some real boss niggas didn't really put fear. He don't put no fear. The only fear that Charleston White put in niggas is that he gonna call the laws. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, that's what, so niggas must not be right, in other ways and shit. You know what I'm saying? Maybe the nigga got a warrant. Maybe the motherfucker on parole. Maybe, this, that he don't, and motherfuckers don't need them peoples in their business, and so motherfuckers opt out. You know what I'm saying? And so if he catch a motherfucker in a predicament like, and this motherfuckers don't give a fuck like about that. But some motherfuckers do. Motherfuckers ain't ready to sit down. Motherfuckers love their freedom right now. Some motherfuckers don't give a fuck about no freedom. This is a new day and age, and he knows that. He knows it's a new day and age, because if he would have did any of this shit back in the 80s or the 90s or early 2000s, the nigga would have been gone. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He would have been gone. You know what I'm saying? And that's real tough. But anyway, yeah. What is this, man? Let me take out some trash, man. Let me take out some trash. Bingo. I love it. I love it. Anyway, family, we just getting started. I want to make sure y'all get over there to Patreon, man. Get that work. We got nothing but two off of YouTube. You already know what he staged. I could believe that he staged it. I believe it. He's that type of nigga. I believe it, because he's a stunt man, and so I could believe that that's what it was. Believe it. You know, I seen how he was in the car and talking about keep moving. Yeah, more than likely that's what it is. And he keep calling this man's name. You know what I'm saying? They trying to get Jay Prince up out of there. And this motherfucker the police anyway. So you know what it is. Click that Patreon. We gonna be right black. General Seti, Etsy, One Stop, KingSeti.com. I'll see y'all in a minute, family. Black Power.